Kathy Akers from Fathom Realty here in Rocky Mount, our local real estate expert here on WHIG. We appreciate you coming on.
Good morning.
Good
How
morning.
are you today?
So Friday was the official kickoff. The flare went up and the race began because it is fall, y'all.
That's right. It is fall. It may not feel like it out there, but
We were talking about that earlier, and Fred needs to fix that.
yeah, Fred, it's all on you, bud.
Yep.
So, but let's talk about things that we need to look at for the fall.
Okay.
We've talked about some of this stuff before, and it's just routine maintenance. It's things that we don't think about, but you know, this past weekend we were all out in our yards cleaning up after the little bit of
Well, the
wind
best part
and
about the
rain
storm
and
is
stuff.
it got a lot of the pine straw down early.
Yes, and leaves.
That was so much fun.
So, but with that comes other issues. So, you know, we of course have had not the storm damage that
Right.
some of the other areas have had, but I'm sure there are some out there that have had trees down and, you know, limbs on roofs and that
Right.
kind of thing. So that's going to, you know, the leaves and pine straw are going to continue to fall. So you need to take a proactive stance with that. So
Well, and leaves and pine straw have the effect on a lot of things besides just your yard. Obviously, they can pile up beside your house and create dampness in and around the edges of it. That's certainly the most common thing is they get on your roof, and you do need to clean them. And if you don't have one of those gutter shielded
That's
things,
right.
you got to clean your gutters out, which is so not fun. And it's not just your gutters, your downspouts as well. A lot of folks don't think about it, but
That's
stuff
right.
gets stuck in those downspouts.
well, and you know, if you don't have those gutter guards, you know, it makes it very easy for the birds and the squirrels and things to make nests. That's right, all kinds of little critters. We have seen an increase in tree frogs around our house. And
I've seen tree frogs last 3 or 4 years. I mean, they're like on a window, just sticking there.
There they are, and they're quick. So we actually ended up with a couple coming in during the storm into our
Oh, wow.
garage. So not in the house, but in the garage.
Yep.
So, but that dampness that the pine straw and the leaves, especially if you have a valley
Yep.
in your roof line,
And
you
a lot
know,
of folks do now with all the pitched roofs and
that's
vaulted
right.
ceilings and stuff like that. It's easy to have those lines.
That's right. So you want to look at those areas because they can sit there and it can cause water to actually go up underneath the shingles and that kind of thing. So you're actually looking at potential damage of your roof.
And there's actually, I've actually seen a YouTube video on this, and I recommend it. But people, if you Google this, you can see water travel upwards.
Yes.
It'll actually go down, get on the little pine needles and the leaves, and travel back upwards as it's spreading out over the surface, and go back underneath the shingle.
That's right. So, you know, that's just one piece of it. But, you know, while you're out there, my husband, he just cut the grass,
Right.
which mulched up the leaves. That's adding back to your yard. So that's,
Not a bad thing.
you know, not a bad thing. That helps put the nutrients back into your yard. So, you know, if you don't want to get out there and rake, you know, just cut them up with your your lawnmower.
But make sure you do it. Put the mulcher on the mower. Don't just
yeah.
throw out the waste and then let it sit there in rows.
That's right. That's right. Make sure that it's getting distributed properly. Now's a good time to start thinking about winter intrusion. So start looking around your windows. We've talked about this before. Water gets around those windows, can cause wood rot, can cause mold.
Bad mold, which people don't pay attention to, especially on the east side of the house. A lot of times, it maybe gets the early morning sun, but doesn't get the sun the rest of the day.
The north.
That north and east
east
side,
side.
especially, and people, and if it's higher up because the elevations of your house and stuff, you just don't ever look on the outside of that.
That's
you
right.
may have all kinds of mold over there, and that green mold that gets on the siding. You don't think about it.
Right. So those are some things to think about, you know. But the other piece is if you are finding some wood rot, don't let it sit. Go ahead and start taking action, because what can happen is that you've got that hole there or a crack that water will start coming in. Remember, you have all kinds of things between that exterior and interior that can take on water. You know, between the insulation, the studs, and those kinds of things.
Well, you also have your support beams that, again,
That's
if
right.
they all start to rot and deteriorate, you might fall through.
That's right. So, you know, there's some things that can happen interiorly that we don't think about because we think, okay, the outside's securing it.
And we're not just talking about the roof or the attic, we're talking about your flooring as well, because water travels. Water is famous for, I'm going to come here, and then I'm going to spread over here, and then I'm going to come down over here, and you're thinking, well, there's a wet spot over there, so let me go patch that, and it's really over here.
And that's true. This is from personal experience. We had a shower drain that had backed up and caused a breach. The shower was over in this corner.
Right.
We found the water damage here. So, you know, it does travel, and it travels between the flooring and the subflooring and the tile or whatever covering that you have. So you really need to look at the whole picture and making sure you're taking care of all of it. The other piece is that, you know, we look at we talk about the leaves and things like that. You know, we're getting, October's coming, that's
Leaf season.
Leaf season. You know, you want to be proactive because when they're out, when people are visiting you or, you know, trick or treat, we're not going to talk about that yet, but, you know.
As well, all the stores are set up for
That's right. But, you know, people can slip and fall on any leaves and things like that. So those are some things to think about in clearing your sidewalks and that kind of thing.
Well, and one thing I will mention, and this does tend to get away from people, inside the city limits of Rocky Mount, inside the city limits of Tarboro and Nashville, you are not allowed to burn your leaves.
That's right.
People do it, but you're not allowed to.
Yes.
And it's against the law. You can't actually be cited for it.
And, you know, they're going to come out with their fall leaf collection schedule, and so that's going to be one of those things that...
Now, let me tell you, the best thing they ever did was allow loose leaf collection. Because bagging those things, as a child, living on the edge of Rocky Mount over off of Gloucester Road as a kid, bagging those things was the bane of my existence.
Oh, yeah.
Now you can just like make a pile on the street and they come by, suck them all up, and
that's
Bob's
right. That's right. So yard maintenance, that kind of thing. And while we're talking about yard maintenance, you know, one of my favorite things is a pot of flowers of some pop of color, as I say.
Mums usually.
Mums right now on the front porch. That just adds that little touch of color. You know, pumpkins, I've seen people starting to buy pumpkins.
Well, and a lot of folks don't think about it, but marigolds actually grow very strongly this time of year. And they have that fall color arrangement, the oranges and the yellows as well. They complement. They'll die out as soon as the first freeze comes around, but that's okay.
That's right. And there are a lot of fall type flowers or even winter flowers, and your local nurseries can steer you in the right way.
Right.
So it doesn't have to just be something floral. It could be something that's green and red and those colors. There's a lot of plants that have those fall foliage with them that can help. So, you know, adding that little pop of color, you know, it always makes somebody's day. And I have had...
and all this is for just the typical homeowner.
Yeah.
But also if you're looking at possibly selling your house...
That's right.
These are good information for them as well, because you want to make your house stand out amongst your competition in the neighborhood. Even though you may not be selling against them.
That's right.
When people drive by, let's be very honest, and somebody is interested in buying a house and your house is on the market, they're looking at your neighbors to see how you take care of your house compared to theirs. And how your neighbors take care of their house. You can't fix them, but they care about them too.
That's right. And we've always talked about, first and foremost, your first showing is on the internet. And then your next one is that drive-by. And if they're driving by and you have not taken kept it up or taken these things into consideration, they're going to notice that.
If you have missing shingles, they're going to notice that real quick.
So that also leads to then their question of, you know, if this and this and this is not taken care of, then what else has not been taken care of?
Absolutely.
So we've talked about the leaves and the roofs and water intrusion around the house, fall color. What about cleaning? Inside cleaning. I know that we don't always talk about things like that,
Right.
but we always talk about the air filters and that type of thing. We talk about changing those smoke alarm batteries when the time changes. So those are things that you need to get into a routine of doing.
Well, also have we've talked about before, carbon monoxide
Right.
alert, and also have radon testing done. I mean, all those things that matter. You may not consider them to be very important at the
Right.
time. It's not now. It's like a dead battery. You don't know it's important to you till it's dead.
That's true. That's right. And you go to use something and then you don't even have the battery to. So look at those items that, to me, I recommend the little cheap, $1, $2 air filters.
Right.
Change them out often.
Well, let me be very clear. HVAC professionals will tell you that they're better for your system. The ones that have those real fine meshes and they talk
Right.
about allergens and all that kind of stuff, they make your system work harder. It's trying to pull air through that stuff, and they will tell you right away you're better off using one of those cheap units and swapping it out every 30 days, which
That's
is
right.
what people try to avoid,
That's right.
versus putting one of those 3-month filters out there, because guess what? You're really hurting your system and your utility bill's higher.
And don't forget to clean the grates that's pulling, because the dust can accumulate on those grates as well.
Those of us who are tall and aren't afraid to stand on chairs with the vacuum cleaner have done that.
That's right. Well, one of the other places that we don't think about that, and you don't look up that often, but it's also your, and I'm losing my word
Ceiling
here.
fan?
The ceiling fan, but I'm thinking of like in your bathrooms for the
the exhaust.
for the exhaust fans, because that's constantly pulling air up and out of the bathroom.
No, I don't want to look inside of that thing. I'm
But
not taking the
even
cover
just-
off, and I'm not looking inside.
I understand, but next time that you're sitting down in the bathroom and you look up, see how much dirt and dust has accumulated
It's
on
a
the
wonder that thing
outside of that
spins at
thing.
this point.
That's right. So that helps also in part of it is having that air flow through the house, because we're getting into that time that we're not having a lot of air flowing through the house, so everything is starting to stale or
Right.
stalemate. It's getting.
Do you recommend dehumidifiers?
Yes, if you see that there's a lot of moisture buildup, the other thing to consider is having somebody to look at your crawl space. That's one of those areas that a dehumidifier or a sump pump
Right.
is very beneficial. That helps pull that moisture
out.
out. And so those are some things that to look at as well. We don't often think of our crawl space, and that is just not one of those areas that I go into. But
As somebody who has no fear of snakes, I don't have a
That's
problem
right.
with it. As somebody who doesn't like spiders, nope.
That's right.
I will have to wear a beekeeper's outfit head to toe with
That's
toxic
right.
gloves and tongs, and then I will crawl under my space, because then I don't mind doing the hard work. I don't mind getting dirty.
Yeah.
But spiders just wig me out.
Well,
And
there
North
was
Carolina has plenty of black widows out there.
That's right, and there's that old song, "I don't like spiders and snakes." Well, that's
They
my
don't like me
thing.
either.
That's right. So, but think about those areas that you don't think about.
That's why they have exterminators. Hire one.
That's right, and they can also look at if you have them coming out and checking your crawl space. They can check the humidity level in your
Yep.
crawl space. They can make recommendations. Is it something that you're okay, or are you going to need to take more
Well, I will tell you,
measures on?
humidity in your crawl space invites bugs. So
Yes.
Termites and that kind of stuff, they go for moist wood. That is literally their sweet spot.
That's right.
So
And-
keep your wood dry, keep all the crawl spaces as dry as you can, because that just invites other things, including mold.
Well, and I've heard some people talk about having a sealed crawl space, and that's where they come in and they
seal it top to bottom.
Seal it top to bottom. They put in the dehumidifiers. They also put in a sump pump.
And also, it's not cheap.
It's not cheap. But people that have had that done have talked about less pests inside the house.
Yep.
So, you're sealing up their access area. So, I'm not saying every house needs to have it, but if you don't want all those little crawly creatures coming through your house, that might be something to consider too.
Well, and one thing I'll mention, and I did this recently, is I went and kind of did an evaluation of all my windows and doors, and even though all the windows and doors will shut tight, sometimes there's that little gap that's in there.
That's right.
And as you're getting to winter, you don't plan on bringing your windows up very much. So if you use a silicone, don't use something that's hard and is going to stick there, but you can put silicone down there, which you can peel back up when summer comes back around and open your windows.
That's right.
But that silicone will help seal out and keep both the bugs and the moisture from coming in your house.
Right.
And let's be honest, I remember this as a kid. The HVAC guy came to our house and basically said, everywhere you have a window, imagine a brick-sized hole in your wall. That's the energy both in and out. You're just letting go out. And even though it's energy-efficient windows and all that kind of stuff, you still are letting light in, you're letting air out. It's a surface that conducts heat and energy.
That's right.
Every window is a brick-sized hole in your wall. Think about that, and if you think about sealing that and doing as much as you can, that also makes your utility bill go down.
That's right. The other piece with that is look at we're talking about windows and doors, look at the gaskets, the rubber gaskets on the doors, that kind of thing. They actually, will deteriorate. So maybe it's time to replace the seals on your doors and that kind of thing. So those are some other pieces to, look at the whole picture and make sure that you're not allowing air to get in or escape out of your house. And, because if air can get in and out, so can water and all those other little things that we talked about.
Little critters. Well, Kathy, appreciate you coming in on WHIG to talk about all these great things. If somebody wants to get more information on taking care of their house, or, we've talked about this before, you have a directory of all kinds of trusted professionals to help them take care of their house in case they don't want to do it themselves. And finally, if they're looking at selling a house, how can they reach you?
Give me a call at 252-266-4038.
All right, we'll be right back after these messages with another look at the weather from Fred Holdsworth, the Weather Master.